on the stream.
Excellente. So we're gonna wait until we hear me repeating myself, because that's what happens when we go onto YouTube. Just waiting for my little arrow to cross the street.
On the stream.
Excellente. So, okay, so I just repeated myself. We are live on the stream and as well as on YouTube there.
And folks in the chat room, just let us know if we need to adjust anybody's sound, if I'm too low or too high, or DJ's obnoxious, or,
that just comes
annoying. Oh, that's right. Anyways, just let us know. And yeah, hey, we might as well start. It's 9 o'clock.
Okay, so here we're gonna start up. Oh, maybe I should turn that down a little. Let me see. Save volume and okay. Good evening. Tonight we're going to be discussing a early 70s, well, what we call a crime drama these days. It's got a police detective and a homicide department in the beautiful Hollywood Hills. Well, hello there, Mr. Smelly. Happy January night to you.
Yes. By the way, 1 degree. 1 degree outside of the Marionette Theater here in Spuds Flats, New York. Gertie kindly came in about 5 hours early to crank the heat and get things going. It's a large space here, but we got a blanket over our laps. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's dipped quite a bit a few days ago, and we have only just recently seen temperatures in the 20s out there in not quite Apple country. So I was glad that Miss Gertie turned the heat on there. But despite the cool temperatures, kind of like tonight's show that we're talking about takes place in Southern California, I hear that Miss Gertie is a devoted sunbather now. I had a time or two that I came to the theater and she was up there on the roof catching some rays, I will tell you that.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Oh, well, that's nice.
And
yeah, just keep flapping your gums. Hey, Mr. Star Sage.
Did that lawsuit with Tan Mom ever get settled?
Listen, I don't want to talk about it. You're lucky this place is as warm as it is, even though it's not warm, but it's better than it would have been if I had to come in 5 hours early. Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, thanks to our resident cougar, showgirl, we have a little bit of money to be paying for the heat bill, so thanks for the sugar daddy.
Yeah.
So Toppy, this is the 70s we're talking about tonight, and it's a crime, sort of a crime drama that ran for quite a while. And because of that, we don't really have a trailer because it's not a movie. It was kind of TV movies, because each episode was about that length. In fact, for a time it was part of what was it, like the Sunday mystery movie or something like that?
The NBC mystery movie. Yep. On Sunday nights. It was what they called a wheel show, meaning that Columbo was just one of several movies that would come on that particular night on Sundays on the Sunday mystery movie. And there was also at various times McCloud, most popularly, and Macmillan and Wife and Columbo. So it was a series, but each of them was only on like once a month. And that gave them, the producers, an opportunity to spend longer on each episode, not only to make it approximately a 2-hour movie, but they had more time to devote to it to make it a little bit better than your average 1-hour drama.
So I'm just I'm just getting my wits about me here. Sorry. Thinking about Southern California just it puts me in a spot here. Spot of
Yes.
sun perhaps, but we'll see here. So, I think that this would be a good moment to play a sort of a series trailer. These are some highlights over the years.
Hey, so check it out.
Oh,
This is
sorry, that's the wrong one. Stand by, folks. Waiting for my cue. This will all be fixed in post, of course, as we say.
Okay. This is live.
My name is Columbo, ma'am. I'm a lieutenant from the police.
They've got someone on it. A Lieutenant Columbo. I'm sure you'll be talking to him. He's very official. Believe me, if there's anybody...
Just bring the volume up a little, DJ.
I can't.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes. Matter of fact, I am a bit hungry.
I'll always think of you as the queen of cosmetics. But if things do get too bad, if you ever do need to get out of this crazy roller coaster business.
Oh, David, you innocent lamb. Are you in for a surprise?
No, thank you, darling. You're not gonna make a sucker out of me like you did Murchison. There was a time when I would have given you anything. Now, quite frankly, I wouldn't give you... What makes you think her murder was premeditated? Usual things, sir. Little facts that plain don't fit, you know, sir. Anything I hate is one of those little facts. Doesn't ever seem to matter how small it is either, sir. Could be this big. No, the newspaper on the foyer table, that was a late edition. I mean, I even saw racetrack results in it.
Exactly what is your point, Lieutenant?
I'm not sure I have one. You know, this case is so full of confusing details that, excuse me, I said to myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a tape record.
Now, come on, Lieutenant. Don't tell me they got you back out here chasing after Luke's daydream.
Lieutenant, why are you hounding Beth?
Hounding? Who, me? Oh, no, I'm not hounding anybody. Oh, no, no. No, what I'm trying to do is get to the bottom of this thing.
Lieutenant.
Suddenly, I thought of something. How clever that first murder was. The phone gimmick. Working late in the office. Brilliant.
Oh, you awarding gold medals today?
Yes, for the first one. Not for the second one. That was sloppy. When I planted that seed about searching for the thermos bottle, I called the Rangers and the Boy Scouts. I knew it was going to worry you and you'd come out here and look for the parachute. Then I knew. The problem was why you did it. The father loves the son. You did it to protect your boy.
All right, Lieutenant. You win.
The classic trick to reveal the secret.
Oh my God, are you gonna let me intro this stupid show, or do I
Hey.
have to wait around in the cold forever?
Well, I was just about to pay you a compliment. Speaking of highlights, those beautiful highlights that our showgirl's wearing, and she snuck down there to the stage. Would you like to tell us what we're watching tonight?
But yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, she's ready. Frank Columbo is a lieutenant and a detective with the homicide department at the Los Angeles Police Department. Despite being underpaid, overworked, and driving a car on his last legs, he managed to meet some characters. Well, you might say some were persons of interest. Columbo often plays it cool, but every now and then he lets his wit slide in. This series had a run over 2 decades, with almost a dozen episodes each year it was on the air. So grab a trench coat and a notepad, but please, leave the cigars at home. It's time for Columbo with Peter Falk. Boys.
What
By
do
the
you get
name.
when you take a dash of the silver screen? A pinch of golden oldies? and a smidgen of streaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts DJ and Toppy.
Thank you, Miss Gertie, for that wonderful introduction to tonight.
That's right. And it's interesting that you came up with Frank, probably in your research. Columbo was never referred to as anything other than Lieutenant Columbo or Columbo on the show. And yet it's sort of known or believed that his first name is Frank. And as Tommy Heshbrand points out in the chat room, if you were able to freeze frame your TV when you had your VHS tape, or more currently streaming, if you put it on still just at the right time, you might see his name. But they didn't hardly ever show a close up of his lieutenant badge or whatever he would show. He would bring it out in almost every episode. But Frank, is apparently what was written on that ID, and apparently that's his first name.
In an interview that I heard with Mr. Falk, he mentioned that his Columbo's first name was something that's probably embarrassing. And I just find that ironic that a man whose first name is Peter probably went through life with people picking on him for that being his first name. But,
Oh, could be. Well, first of all, I want to welcome the chat room. Aunt Tudor, Billy, Star Sage, RT Cruiser over there in the Australias. Thank you for being here. Our pal Tommy Hash Browns. And also Aunt Tudor's partner, Sam, is listening in. They're both big fans of Columbo, so we're glad they're here. And there might be people listening that aren't showing up on my little list here, so welcome one and all. And DJ, explain that whole deal about how we're simulcasting. How about that? A big word.
Big words. Speaking of
on YouTube. Yeah, on YouTube, right?
Yeah, so Matinee Minutia is performed live twice a month on the first and third Fridays. Kind of like, a TV network movie night. But you come over to matineeminutia.com and you can choose how you want to experience your trivia. You can either just listen in when you click on the tower there, or you could participate by going to the chat room there. That's that little Discord button that looks like a face mask. But if you're wanting to see the wonder and the costuming, because we're in an old theater here, folks. We have a wardrobe department. It gets a little dusty now and then, but some of the moth-eaten stuff is pretty fun to look at.
There you go.
You can click on the YouTube logo that's on our page there, and you can see us in our glory.
Or at least DJ. DJ, describe your look tonight, please.
Okay, let's play the game show prize music. Da, 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 da. I am wearing a very low budget policeman's outfit for the on the go look here. I've got my kind of khaki colored jacket on here, and then I've got my button down shirt and a tie, and my hair's kind of a little messed up because maybe the missus kicked me out and I slept in the car last night.
Right, but explain the background. It's
oh
trees,
yes,
and there's some ducks or swans. I don't know.
Right, I was explaining to Toppy that we are on location. We have a fancy kind of high-tech room here at the Marionette. It allows us to be on location of our subject we're discussing. And this is a scene of a crime because something's gone afoul. Now, if you take a look at us on YouTube, we're at a pond and there's some ducks.
There's some ducks. Afoul, get it. Anyways, I didn't think, I knew at some point in the chat room someone would mention Mrs. Columbo, the television series with Kate Mulgrew, and sure enough, Tommy Hitchbrown's got it in there. A strange concept, but yeah. When NBC canceled the whole mystery movie night and everybody on it. There was, I don't know how long it was after, and I'm not even sure it was NBC, but they came up with Mrs. Columbo, who is mentioned in practically every episode of Columbo by Peter Falk as Columbo. He's always talking about his wife. It's one of the little things they put in almost every episode. Sure enough, someone had the brilliant idea to have a show with Mrs. Columbo, who somehow gets involved with mysteries. And it met with not great success, and they quickly kind of retooled it. I think they got a lot of flack for the Columbo aspect, and they retooled it to practically not refer to the show as Mrs. Columbo at all. But eventually it just bit the big one. I don't think it lasted more than 13 episodes, if even that.
Well, you know, it all comes back to Star Trek. It was Kate Mulgrew.
There you go. Kate Mulgrew was in it. I watched it back in the day, and everything I just said was beyond me. I just kind of liked it. So,
So this was the 1971 Toppy. Lead us in that direction.
Well, that was the debut of the show as it was introduced on the mystery movie, or even before that. Actually, there's a long story there. We'll get into it. But 1971, DJ, The World in 1971.
U.S. history in 1971. Uniform Monday Holiday Act. Federal holidays observed on Mondays because of the Uniform Holiday Act. There was a ban on cigarette ads on television and radio that took effect. Columbo. Satchel Paige, from your favorite person, Satchel. He became the first Black League player to get voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 71. Congress discontinued funding for the supersonic transport, the Concorde, in 71, although it ran for quite a few years afterwards. The first Starbucks opened in Seattle way back in 71.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, the U.S. ended its trade embargo on China. I remember you used to look for the little ROC on things that came from China, because that was the Republic of China, which was Taiwan and not mainland at the time.
Very good.
And then the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. Also in 71, the U.S. dropped the gold standard. You know, Fort Knox? Well, the U.S. Treasury's deposit of gold, it was no longer the standard after 71. The U.S. Postal Service was spun off as its own corporation, and I think Jerry Lewis did a movie with the Postal Service later on. Walt Disney World opened in Orlando in 71. And then last but not least, certainly a little bit of technology here. Intel, you know, the people that made the super chip, they
Intel.
Yes, they released the first commercially available microprocessor. So, you know, those shows that had the machines with the big reels in the background, well, they weren't using those after a time.
Awesome. I just want to say hello to Maren Gertz, who just came into the chat room a little while ago. Celebrity births. 1971 brought the birth of Mary J. Blige, the singer, Regina King, actress, Sean Astin, actor, Lord of the Rings, we know him mostly from, Shannon Doherty of Dino 210 and other weird things.
Charmed.
John, slap me silly for saying that, because Matt Burlingame's going to be listening. And forget I said anything anything negative at all about Shannon Doherty. Just forget it. And not that I said anything negative. I don't know what I'm talking about. John Billingsley, Star Trek Enterprise. Who did he play on that?
Who is the doctor? Dr. Phlox.
Oh my God, I loved him. Chris Tucker, stand-up actor, and stand-up actor, stand-up comedian and actor. Amy Poehler, am I pronouncing that right?
It's Peeler.
Peeler, all right. Comic and actress. Winona Ryder. We know her most from that Stranger Things.
Yeah, and she was Spock's mommy in the first of the Star Trek movies in 09.
Oh, it's all back to Star Trek. Mark Wahlberg, Boogie Nights, and many other things.
You know, he kept that prosthetic that was used in Boogie Nights.
Oh, I don't blame him. I'd haul that out. Actually, I don't remember it being that impressive. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, I haven't watched it recently, but maybe it deserves a revisit.
Well, you know, I don't know. Maren Gertz asks, why can't she not see me? I'm camera shy, Maren. I just don't like being on camera. I am a radio guy. I am a audio person. And we don't look. I just know. DJ, however, loves it, and that's why.
We'll keep it in line with tonight's theme. You see, this is a police crime drama series, and Toppy is part of the Witless Protection Program.
That's a good one, DJ. Brother. Look, why don't we talk about what was up against Columbo when it was on the air? Of course, it was on the air for a damn long time, but what were some of the shows it was competing against?
All right, so let's warm up the old boob tube, folks. Woo, that smoked from the back there. All right, so back in 71, when we only had 3 networks, now I lost count nowadays, Columbo premiered on NBC, the Peacock and former home of Star Trek. In the fall of 71, network TV scheduled it to air on Wednesdays for some strange reason at 8:30 in its first season. And
what a weird time to start it.
Truly. I mean, I guess the kids might be to bed and you could watch something, but I don't know, Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right. So opposite Columbo on Wednesday nights, that first season on CBS, the eyeball, the big brother, was a very beloved show, the Carol Burnett Show.
Which is news to me because I forever associate it with the 10 p.m. time slot. And I was like, well, I never knew it was on at 8.
And on ABC, which Columbo actually switched over to in its later years, was a show in the heyday of its run, because it only ran a few seasons, actually. The Courtship of Eddie's Father, which starred Bill Bixby.
My beloved Bill Bixby. Before that he did My Favorite Martian, or My Friend the Martian, or My Uncle the Martian, whatever that was.
Yes.
Anyways.
That was a favorite of Mom and Dad's, and of course I didn't see it until it was on Nick at Night. But anyways, so in 72, NBC moved Columbo to Sunday nights, where it was part of NBC's aforementioned Sunday Mystery Movie. And as Toppy was mentioning, it was along with McLeod! And Nick Millen and Wife, which, if I'm not mistaken, one of the actresses from that show is in something we're going to talk about later. Is a sitcom actress there. Anyways, opposite on CBS when it moved to Sundays was Mannix.
Oh boy, Mannix. What an old TV style detective show that was. Mannix.
Columbo would stay on Sunday nights until the end of its first run in 78. And then when the show was revived, because they took a break for a while, it was brought over to ABC. And it premiered on Saturdays at 9 o'clock. And at that point in the later years of its revival, opposite it on NBC, and I'm sorry, it just didn't this is probably what I was watching instead, although I don't think we were allowed to watch it in my house. The Golden Girls, which, of course, we just recently lost Betty White, but she had a fabulously long life, and I only hope to be around as long as her to annoy the people in my life. Anyways, and then over on the new network, which was Fox, because we eventually got things like Married with Children and The Simpsons. Over on Fox on Saturdays was In Living Color, which was the beginning of many people's career, including Jim Carrey and the Wayans brothers.
There you go. Tommy Ashburn's trying to remember who was Mannix. Is it Robert Conrad, William? Uh, uh, I, I can't remember who was in Mannix. If I heard the name, I'd remember. Japers, I can't remember. I want to say it might have been Robert somebody. Robert. Anyways, Robert Conrad's almost it. Somebody in the chat room will bring up the real name.
I bet you Aunt Tudor can give us an answer because he is a nostalgia nut.
All right. Why don't we talk about the origins of this show, Columbo, because it's really pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. Turns out one of the main men behind the show is Richard Levinson, primarily a writer, but he did some producing and other things. He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He got some kind of
City of brotherly love.
There you go. Got a bachelor's degree in economics in 1956. He was in the Army, 57, 58. He married actress Rosanna Huffman in 69. So Richard Levinson had a buddy. His name was William Link. And the two of them fancied themselves writers. And quite before that, they sent in a little story called Dear Corpus Delicti to an issue of Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine. This was an anthology magazine, a little digest-sized magazine. There were many of them. I think one was called Anthology Magazine. And they were popular magazines where anybody could submit a story and possibly get it published. And a lot of writers got their first shot at being published in magazines like Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine, and Levinson and Link got their little short story published. And this little short story featured a police lieutenant named Fisher. And guess what? It was basically Columbo. And man, yeah. Do we have the name of Mannix yet? Mike Connors. Yep, that was it. And that was really this little gem, a little germ of an idea by Levinson and Link. Was their first shot at doing this character, this detective, who was kind of down to earth, not very fancy, and frequently put into places of the rich and famous. And he was a bit of a fish out of water character because he was humble and drove a crappy car and didn't get paid much, but he was constantly put in up against characters who were quite rich and thought they were little clever people. And this humble detective would outwit them. So after this short story was done, they wrote up another Columbo. It wasn't called Columbo yet, but it was a little episode of a television anthology series called the Chevy Mystery Show, Chevy being the sponsor. And it was titled Enough Rope. And it was actually an adaptation of their story in Alfred Hitchcock's magazine. And again, featured a Columbo-like character by the name of Fisher, and the actor to portray him was Bert Freed, and he was kind of a stocky guy with a thatch of gray hair. And Freed wore a rumpled suit and smoked a cigar. But most of the mannerisms we know from Columbo, portrayed by Falk, hadn't, come around yet because they were Falk creations. But it's recognizably Columbo. And the character would use the same kind of methods of misdirecting and distracting his suspects before springing the reveal of how it was done. And there's a way that that story was told is that the character portrayed by Burt Freed didn't show up until 20 minutes in. And that first part of the show was the crime. And that little bit became a signature of Columbo. And every episode of Columbo starts with the commission of the crime. You're introduced to the people that are involved. You're shown right away who the murderer is. It's not a mystery to you who are watching. And the entertainment or the satisfaction is going along with Columbo, us knowing what happened, but watching Columbo try to figure it out. So that was quite unique, really. So in 1968, they did another round of Columbo, this time casting Peter Falk, and the title and the character's name was Columbo.
Mr. Smelly?
Yeah.
If I can just have you hold your place for only a moment, we'll pick up right back there again. We are at about the halfway mark in our show, so we're going to step out here to the candy counter. I'll have an O. Henry, Miss Gertie. That was one of Dad's favorite candies. And we are going to entertain you for about 3 minutes-ish with an interview from inside the actor's studio, Mr. Falk and Mr. James Lipton.
With more pleasure than I can express, we come to Columbo. Clearly, a decision was made very early on to guard Columbo's privacy. It is one of the most brilliant strokes of this brilliant series. We know very little about him. Does he still drive that Peugeot?
Oh, yeah.
We know that he has children, but we don't know how many. We know that his favorite song is...
This old man, he played one.
That's right.
He played knick-knack on my thumb.
Now, William Link has made a very interesting suggestion. He has said that it is possible, remember, he's one of the creators of the show, that there is no Mrs. Columbo, and that she is utilized, created by him, in order to make a point.
I disagree. I think he does have a wife, but I'm not sure how many relatives he has.
How did the raincoat originate?
I thought that I had read in the script that he was wearing a raincoat. Lincoln Levinson, they claimed that it never said a raincoat, that it was a top coat, but that's my memory. And I knew of a raincoat that I wanted to wear, and that was mine. I liked it, I felt comfortable in it. And I also had a pair of shoes that I wanted to wear because they were brown and they had a high top on them, and it looked like something that an immigrant from Italy would wear. So now we're into brown. We got brown shoes, we got a brown raincoat, and I had a suit there. Suit was all right. I said, maybe could you dye that brown? So they dyed that brown, and the shirt, we dyed that beige, so we had a symphony of brown. I felt that drab would be good for him. And there was one concession to color, and that was that drab green tie.
Right.
And that was his one burst of color.
Has the raincoat been retired?
Well, people say that it's in the Smithsonian Institute, and if my second floor closet is the Smithsonian Institute, that's where it is.
I'm curious to know how much you've contributed to the writing of that show. Columbo has a shoe fetish. He frequently asks these rich folks, how much do those shoes cost, right?
Right. That's my contribution, to be able to lean over to the defense attorney and say confidentially, what'd you pay for those shoes? I mean, that just tickles you to do that.
The most famous Columbo trademark, of course, is the false exit, the return, and the lethal one more thing. Was that there from the beginning? Was it in the original?
Yes, that was in the original. And the trick then was, once it was in the original, was in the 60 succeeding shows to find ways to do it with some originality and some difference. Walk out, actually leave, come back, tap on a window from the outside. I mean, we tried every possible way to give that variety.
How many Emmys have you won for Columbo? You
Four.
personally?
Four.
Okay, so we were talking about when Peter Falk came into the role after the short stories, Mr. Smelly. Are you there, sir? You might be on mute. Go ahead and hit your space bar.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so, all right. I'm all confused from this half-hour break, but anyways, they got Falk involved in the first teleplay. It was a success. They wanted to do more of them, and but it took a few years. The 68 was the first Peter Falk movie, and it took all the way till 1971 to pull it all together again as a reoccurring show. They did have in 71 another pilot movie. It was also a success, and that made them say, yeah, let's do this as a regular show. And that's how it all got started. Believe it or not, way back when they were trying to cast a Columbo, can you believe that they were seriously considering Bing Crosby?
Oh,
honest to God, they were. And Bing Crosby basically said, I'd rather be playing golf. No thanks.
right.
And that's how they ended up with Peter Falk. Falk himself really wasn't keen on starting a regular weekly TV series, because he kind of had it going on in the movies, and he really wasn't sure he wanted to commit to this. But that's when the network kind of arranged for this revolving wheel show where there was McMillan and Wife and McCloud. And that meant it wasn't as rigorous a schedule for Falk and actually all the other actors on the NBC mystery movie. And so he stayed with it, and he stayed with it, and he stayed with it, and won lots of Emmy Awards and other awards for portraying Columbo. And as the years wore on, the writers, to their chagrin, got more and more forced out of how the show would go. And Peter Falk got more and more power to say what he wanted. And ultimately, the producers listened to Falk. And Falk got more and more control over the show, for good or worse. I don't know. Those last shows on ABC were really Falk-centric. I mean, he even had his name in the production as executive producer, I believe. And that's where he had the most control. And I don't know if those were the best shows. But anyways, be that as it may, Peter Falk made the show his own. He was able to add bits of business that he liked, like that shoe thing, lots of other little uh, mannerisms that Columbo had were all from his brain, and he really made the character his own. I think he really loved playing it, and it certainly was a hit with viewers.
Well, I will go ahead and advance the conversation here. We're going to talk about the actor himself, Mr. Peter Falk. He played Lieutenant, and some sources called him Frank Columbo, which, of course, as Toppy mentioned, his first name never appeared on screen, at least not in the days, camera quality. You can pause and zoom in and all that nowadays. But Mr. Falk was born in New York City, and he passed away a few years back here in 2011 at the age of 83. Now, by the age of 3, though, Mr. Falk developed cancer, which resulted in the removal of his right eye. Before graduating high school, he was elected president of his class, so he was accomplishing things early in life. His early career choices involved becoming a certified public accountant, CPA. He worked as an efficiency expert for the Budget Bureau of the state of Connecticut before becoming an actor, so he was a pencil pusher. Falk was twice nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Murder Incorporated in 1960 and Pocket Full of Miracles. These are movies in 61. He won his first Emmy Award in 62 for appearance on the Dick Powell Theater. And he was the first actor to be nominated for an Academy Award and an Emmy Award in the same year, achieving that twice in 61 and 62. And then he went on to appear in such films as It's a Mad, 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 Mad World in 63.
I don't remember who he played in that. Do you? I have no idea.
I know it. A lot of interviews I've seen with him, people ask him what it was like to work with those actors because, it was an all-star cast. That was in 63. I do believe, wasn't that a Mel Brooks film?
No.
No? Oh, okay. I'm missing my place here. Anyways, in 65, Falk was in The Great Race, and in 68, a film called Anzio, and then in 74, A Woman Under the Influence, and then here's a title we've discussed in the recent past here on this show, Murder by Death, with the incomparable Eileen Brennan at his side. And in 76, he was in Mikey and Nicky. And then in 78, a film that I think has a lot in common with Murder by Death. It was The Cheap Detective.
Yeah.
And then another film we discussed with Mr. Falk in 79, I do believe, was it Stanley Tucci in that? I can't remember. The In-Laws. What a terrific film. And then in 87, of course, Mr. Falk was involved with The Princess Bride. And he was in Wings of Desire in the same year. In 92, he was in The Player, and in 07, in a film called Next. And he had many television guest roles. Now, 96, TV Guide ranked Falk number 21 on its 50 greatest TV stars of all time. And as you heard, Mr. Falk won 4 Primetime Emmy Awards for Columbo for the years 72, 75, 76, and 90, and a Golden Globe Award in 73 for Columbo. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to put you on the spot only for a moment, Mr. Smelly. Can you imagine what my first exposure to Mr. Falk's work might have been? Just take a wild guess. I don't expect you to get it right.
I don't know. I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
I'll give you some hints because like I said, I put him on the spot, so it's only fair I lead you to the water here. So think early to mid 80s, and think pop star who wants to make their first movie, because that's what the people are doing in the 80s, is that the pop stars are trying to be movie stars and crossing over now. Had Jeff Goldblum as the love interest. You may not have seen this. They go to South America in the story. She had wild hair, and she was an advocate for women's rights on MTV. Girls Just Wanna Have Fun.
Okay.
Cyndi Lauper's film premiere in the
Okay.
80s starred Peter Falk and Jeff Goldblum, and it was called Vibes.
No kidding. I did not know that.
And he played a detective-like character. He was a private eye in that film. He was being sent on a mission to find a missing person. But
okay. I'm amused by Tommy Hash Brown. He got a photo of Peter Falk accepting his Emmy, and with him are two people who that may be Zaza, I guess, and that is William Conrad, who was canon. And then not Mannix, totally different. Mike Connor, yeah. Anyways, that's funny. You've never quite seen as old-fashioned a police show as Cannon and Mannix, and those action scenes when William Conrad had to run. I'm telling you, that was pretty exciting stuff. Needless to say, he didn't run in too many of those episodes, but there are a couple where he had to move fast, and it was pretty funny. All right. DJ, how'd you like the show?
Oh, it was great. I've seen many shows of this ilk in my youth, of course, because well, I won't say that Dad's a couch potato. He liked TV because it was his books. He used to go to the movies as a kid to escape an unhappy home life. So quality time with Dad was watching TV. And I remember watching shows that were similar to this. It might have been like Murder, She Wrote, but it was sort of a fun trip down memory lane for me, because it reminded me of so many of the shows of that time period. And I think that even though I enjoyed Peter Falk's portrayal of the character and the character itself, I think that at least half of the excitement of, quote unquote, tuning in for each episode was the guest that would be there. Now, I tried to watch a fan favorite list, and I got pretty good way through them. But I'll tell you, some of my favorite appearances were like Dick Van Dyke and also Ruth Gordon. I'm sure that you have seen their appearances on this, right?
I have. Yeah, those were great episodes. Yeah, those were great. So many other guest stars of that era, those 70s. Most of them were TV personalities, but some of them were older in the movies. But oh my goodness, so many. Donald Pleasance was one. Vincent Price was a guest star. So many. Jack Cassidy, famously in 2 episodes. Aunt Tudor just posted Vera Miles, and she had a very memorable role where, damn it, she was doing her own stunts in that movie. That was her climbing from the window into that tree and leaping to the ground. That was no stunt double. That was freaking Vera Miles. She had it going on. And just so many other great ones. And, oh God, like, William Shatner was in one, Leonard Nimoy was in one, Roddy McDowell was in one. So many really great performances. from so many wonderful actors of that time, and it's so much fun to see them again on TV watching the show.
And you know that the one you mentioned there just now, Leonard Nimoy, that was another of my favorites because while I have seen him in other roles than in Star Trek, it's just odd to think that his appearance on Columbo was only just like 4 short years after the original Star Trek was off the air.
Yeah.
And so the character that he played in that episode was a surgeon, and just by the mannerisms and the speaking that he had, it reminded me so much of when he had his science series In Search Of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People in the chat room are throwing out names. Robert Culp, Aunt Tudor said, Johnny Cash entered. Robert Conrad, I forgot about that one. Jessica Walter, Tommy says, so many. And one of the things that was so much fun about the series was that these guest stars would one of them, they would be the person that committed the crime. Usually, not usually, I guess always it was a murder. And they were so sure that they had covered all the bases, that they all thought, I've committed the perfect murder. And they were quite confident. And this pesky guy in the raincoat would come in and start annoying the living hell out of them. And at first it was like, yeah. And then he would come back. And yeah, okay. And then he'd come back. And every time he'd come back with some what seemingly pointless concern. And it would annoy the living hell out of these people. But slowly they'd start to get a little concerned because towards the end, it's he's, God damn it, he knows something. And then finally, always differently, always well written, the reveal would come, and it always comes slightly different. And then the best thing of all was watching the guest star reacting to finally getting caught. And the way the writers had all of them deal with that just a little bit different. But, some of them, Roddy McDowell just broke into laughter. He had a nervous breakdown or something. Jack Cassidy, bit his lip, and it was priceless. The guest actors who finally were caught, and their reactions were all priceless.
Yeah, I say that the Ruth Gordon appearance is my favorite only because, as was alluded to in the interview, the character of Columbo is smarter than he lets on, because of course that's part of the charisma of the character. He's got to, sort of trick you into revealing your secret. He's not that, he pretends to not be that smart, but then you let the cat out of the bag, and crap, he was smart all along. But Ruth Gordon's character was a novelist writing murder mysteries, and it was just so endearing to me because the roles that Ruth Gordon often plays were charming older women, and it was terrific watching those scenes because they were it was like cat and mouse. She's like, oh, really? Huh? No, I wouldn't do that.
Yes. And there again, when she's finally nailed and she knows it's kaput, her reaction is just like everyone, priceless. Columbo was a trickster. He really was. The word misdirecting his opponents is good, because that's what he would do. And he was, you know, he would pretend to be a little bit of a bumbling, but he wasn't. But that's he or maybe he was, but he was more than that. He was more than bumbling, so much more. And he would just catch his opponents completely off guard because they saw him as a bit of a bumbling, fool, who's pretty much beneath them. And they'd get trapped. There were some really strange scenes with Columbo being the trickster. I'll tell you one right now. I can't tell you what episode this was in, but one of the things Columbo did to disarm his opponent, in this case, a woman, was he went onto a playground when the woman wasn't around and her child was there in a swing, and he went to the playground and started pushing the child in the swing. And the kid was going, push harder. And Columbo was like pushing this kid like he was really going high. And all of a sudden I felt like, oh my God, this is so wrong.
Stranger danger.
Yes. Did you see that one?
That would not fly nowadays. Of course, half the stuff that Columbo does to get the answers wouldn't happen now because, possibly people like him took advantage of the suspect and weaseled their way into the truth.
Yeah. But that wasn't the only one where, at least today you get like a oogie feeling from it. That was one. Absolutely. I think that was the most egregious one, but there were others. There were others where it was like,
I will say, I was expecting him to hand the kid some candy.
Honest to God, it's so funny. Tommy Hirschbrand posted this shot with Falk and his Beagle. The way that came around is for a number of episodes, Columbo would haul this dog around with him, and it was his dog, and it was explained that he couldn't leave him at home, and so he'd go to the crime scenes with this dog, this droopy beagle, or hound dog of some sort, who was very forlorn. And there's a great shot Tommy just posted. Look at that dog. And he was such a sad sack dog. It was perfect for Columbo. And the reason that came about is that the writers and the producers says, we got to, Columbo's been around for a long time now. Can't we get into his family or show more of his family? I mean, we're running out of things to flesh out here. We got to introduce some new things, and they want, like they suggested, like, can't we ever see Mrs. Columbo? And Peter Falk put his foot down. He says, no, we're never showing Mrs. Columbo. We're not going to do stories about Columbo's family. That's not how we're going to flesh him out. And he said, what we're going to do is I'm going to have a dog. And that's how the dog came about. And it became kind of a pretty cute running gag for one season. That old hound. I don't know if that's a beagle or not. It's part beagle. I don't know what that is.
I can already tell you that if anyone ever gets the harebrained idea to reboot Columbo, because of course it happens, Hollywood is full of reboots. It's only a matter of time. But I'll tell you that the next reboot of Columbo, and I broke the story first here, folks. I'm at Name Minutia. The reason why you never see Mrs. Columbo is because the best kept secret of Columbo is that he is the murderer and she is in the trunk of his car.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I love the show. I love the way it was written. I loved having the whole crime at the beginning, and I loved trying to figure out how is he going to figure this out. I never, by the way, I don't know how you guys were in this department. I never figured nothing out. I didn't know, I wasn't ever clever enough to figure anything out. But I was always quite entertained with all the little uh, tricks and how Columbo would come up with it and the clues, because there were clues along the way. But I was never clever enough to guess. I could never guess. I couldn't guess how I was going to do it. But very entertaining. Falk created such a memorable character. And I think it deserves to be called one of the best ever TV shows on American TV. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and part of the fun is not only seeing those guest roles, but watching it to see the reveal, because you know that the guest celebrity is going to be the bad guy, but how did they do it? And spoiler with Leonard Nimoy's character, he dyed the sutures so that they looked like permanent sutures, and no one would be the wiser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That was clever. See, they did clever things like that. By the way, other behind the scenes stories from the guest stars were Falk could be difficult on the set because he really did have a proprietary feeling about the character in the show, and he really, especially when he became a producer towards the end, really took an interest in the script and everything, and the who's it's and the what's it's, and he also tended to do a lot of reshoots and a lot of let's try it with this and let's do it this way. And for the guest stars, a lot of them found that, like, can we just get on with it? They didn't appreciate all the delays and all the fussing. And Falk would pull a few stunts occasionally, like just not come to the set if he was pissed off enough. And he knew the show couldn't go on without him. And sometimes he did that. I don't agree. And so I'm not coming to work. And that pissed the hell out of a lot of his guest stars. So a lot of his guest stars don't have great stories about being on that show.
Of course, that also speaks to that era too, because Mr. Falk was a film actor before he was a television actor. And, a lot of people in the heyday of Hollywood, they were used to having handlers, and you had somebody that looked out for your reputation. And if you were the star of the show, everybody else better be at your beck and call.
Yeah. I mean, there was clearly that Falk was the head honcho, absolutely, and he knew it, and he pulled his weight. And obviously, he got along with some guest stars much better than others, but some guest stars they just completely regretted ever going on the show. It was so terrible. This is interesting. I think folks in the chat room are talking about if there was to be a new Columbo, who would they want to play? I think, is that what's going on? And I guess Tommy suggested Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, well, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I can almost see that.
He certainly has sort of the look, he's a little salt and peppery, and he plays the smart guy. He was I forget his name, but the guy who was the Hulk before Bruce Banner.
Yeah, that's interesting. It just wouldn't be the same without Falk. I mean, he made it such his own. You might better just come up with a whole new show and a whole new character. But any final words, Deej?
Well, a lot of the things that we discuss are things from a day gone by, so they're not always readily available. But if you go to a site I like to use quite often, justwatch.com, you can find out where you can find shows like Columbo. And I actually watched it for free on a site called Tubi, Tubi, and You might need you don't need a fancy device like a Roku. You can actually just watch it on your computer through a web browser.
Mm-hmm. That's how I started watching it. Prior to that, it was a staple on Amazon Prime, I guess through IDBM.
IMDb, yes.
IMDb. And then suddenly it was gone. Like just right before we were going to do this, they took it off. And then DJ said, "Oh, it's on Tubi too." And I've been watching on Tubi. And oddly enough, Tubi had more of the episodes. I thought I was watching everything on Amazon Prime, but no, they left out a ton of episodes. So when I went to Tubi, like DJ said, I found like jeepers. I've missed so many, and I thought I'd seen them all.
Well, what's interesting about watching TV series is that, you get those guides that fans create online nowadays, and you find out if these episodes actually aired in the order that they were filmed, or if they put them out of a sequence because of some sort of a plot that's developing with the character. But when I went to watch Columbo, the pilots that were done, the films that were done a couple of years before the show, are included as numbered episodes. So it's a little confusing because you go to look up on like a fan favorite page, for example. Oh, season 3, episode 2. Okay, well, the numbers are a little bit off, but the titles are what help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I know one thing I wanted to at least mention before we go is if you've ever wondered the role of a director on a TV show, and you look at the episodes of Columbo, and they're all done well. I don't think there's any that are you could call poor as far as the direction goes. But there's one episode of Columbo that stands out above all of others. And it happened to be the premiere episode of the first season. And it was directed by a very young Steven Spielberg. And if you want to know what the difference a director can make on a show, watch that episode. Especially if you've seen other episodes. Believe the other episodes are fine. But if you want to see what a director can bring to something, watch that episode directed by Steven Spielberg. It's phenomenal. The camera is moving. He uses wide angle lenses and extreme close-ups. He's got an angle where you're looking way up at something. He's got an angle where he's looking way down on something. He's pulling back from this and revealing that. It's amazing. If you want to see the difference a director can make, watch that episode and study it and compare it to other episodes, which are all fine, but none of them match Steven Spielberg's episode. None of them.
And you know what, Toppy? It's interesting if you are playing along with the minutia here at Matinee Minutia, the episode that Steven Spielberg directed of Columbo was also made the same year that he did his first TV movie, which was Duel, that we actually discussed in a past episode here of Matinee Minutia.
Yeah.
And also a side note, just something interesting to think about is that one of the fan favorite episodes is, of course, the episode with Dick Van Dyke, where he's a photographer that ends up murdering his wife. Well, in real life that year, I think it was 74 perhaps, Dick Van Dyke had a very public coming out in that he starred in a TV movie that was about somebody who had a problem with alcohol abuse. And that was also the same year that Dick Van Dyke came clean in public media saying that he had a drinking problem. So it all ties into the same year of him being in his TV movie and on Columbo, and his character in the episode of Columbo, which is called Negative Reaction. He has a scene where he walks in on Columbo, going through his desk drawers or something like that. And he says to Columbo, he goes, "I would offer you a drink, but I'm not a drinking man." So that's an allusion to his real world self. So, okay. Well, we are coming up to the end of the show, so we're going to head out to the lobby, and this is a part of the program we call our snack tray, Toppy. It's what's left over after you've gone through everything, and maybe you've got some jujubes in the box still there, some popcorn. So I'll go ahead and I'll let you know something that you might like if you enjoy Columbo. This was my sister-in-law's favorite series, and it stars sort of a film star, Mr. Tony Shalhoub, who was in the Men in Black films on USA Network. If you remember Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Godfrey, Up All Night.
Wow, is that a blast from the past?
Oh, yes. In 2002, Mr. Tony Shalhoub got to star in his own series. It had 7 seasons. I'm talking about Monk. And this is a series that followed Adrian Monk, a brilliant former San Francisco detective who now consults the police as a private consultant who battles with an obsessive-compulsive disorder. So, in this world that we're living in now, where maybe we've spent a little bit more time at home, a lot more people are realizing that, they have organizing issues and maybe issues with keeping things clean. So a detective with an obsessive compulsive disorder, Monk. I recommend that if you like Columbo.
A really good choice, because it was another actor who totally made an original character with Monk. And that's a really, really good choice, DJ. I just chose the other 2 companion shows that were the rotating NBC Mystery Movie of the Week. They were both good. I'm not sure they matched Columbo. Columbo seemed to really be the better of the 3, but McMillan and Wife and McCloud were not bad at all. Quite entertaining, both of them. Both very different. All 3 of these shows are very different, and very entertaining. Rock Hudson and McMillan and Wife, very appealing. The actor who was in McCloud and in the Steven Spielberg movie we just mentioned.
Oh, Duel.
We just mentioned it. Duel. Thank
Yes.
you. What's his name? McCloud.
Oh, God, I don't have his name.
No. The chat room will rescue us. I know they will. Dennis Weaver.
Okay.
Oh my God. Dennis Weaver. Very appealing actors and performances. Nancy Walker was a great character actor who was in McMillan and Wife. She provided a lot of comic relief. The actress that played the wife, DJ.
Oh, well, she's in the show I'm going to talk about in a minute.
I know, but what's her name?
Susan St. James.
There you go. Susan St. James. One of the fun things about McMillan and Wife was the script writing and the witty repartee. Those 2 actors had, Rock Hudson and Susan St. James. It reminded me a lot of a much later TV series, Moonlighting, with Bruce Willis and
don't forget Heart to Heart.
No, that had nothing. That had none of the witty repartee of Moonlighting.
Shag carpet.
Anyways, Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis. That show had that witty repartee that McMillan and Wife had. Very entertaining, well written, and it says she was in Nancy Walker was in Columbo too. Anyways, that's it. Those are my recommendations. DJ, get that doggone bag of magic coins out.
Okay, so this part will be edited out in post, but I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do our little reveal here. And for those of you listening in the chat room, I am going to play the theme song to the TV show that we're going to be watching next. Because, since we've got the old tube rolled out here, we might as well watch some more TV. So let's see. I'm going to dig out those coins. Okay, folks, you go ahead and tell me in the chat room what you think this TV show is.
Ooh, it's guessing time.
Just when you think there's no one around who's caring, along comes a friend who offers a hand in sharing, then things start looking fine. Sometimes tears and sorrow are all the things you've got. Just when you think
you're all by yourself, you're not.
DJ, I could tell you one thing right now. I know I saw a handful of episodes of this sitcom, but I swear to God, I don't remember that TV scene at all. I don't remember it.
To be fair, I was expecting the intro version. That's actually the end credits. So,
well, no wonder.
But it has the same melody.
Oh, okay.
I will go ahead and read you off the little notation I have here. Okay, so those of you who are waiting in the chat room, do we have any guesses of what this?
Everyone says, "Oh, I think I know. I don't know. Sounds familiar. Nobody's guessed it yet."
A hint is that it stars one of the cast members of McMillan and Wife, and it's
Growing Pains. Bronson Pinchot.
It has a Saturday. Okay, well, I'm going to read you it, and you can guess. A mid to late 80s sitcom set in New York City. Two divorcee mothers bring their children under one roof to raise them as a family. Starring Saturday Night Live actress Jane Curtin.
Okay, now wait. Leave it there. Okay. Somebody's got to get it now.
All right, so we'll see.
Maren Gertz is typing something. She might have it.
This is where we do our faux Jeopardy music. Dun, da, 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 dun, dun, dun. Boom.
Someone's going to get it. Come on. No, I never would have. Yes. There we go, Kate.
Oh, yes.
Tudor got it first.
We have a winner. So the next time on Matinee Minutia, we're going to be discussing long-running sitcom Kate and Allie, which was a favorite of my youth. That, to a boy that grew up out in the rural part of New York State, life in the city was just a mystery to me. And people who didn't have both a mom and a dad, that was a little weird to me because, I grew up with a nuclear family. I'll say it right. I'm not George Bush. Kate and Allie next time on Matinee Minutia. Jane Curtin and Susan St. James.
Well, that'll be interesting because, as I say, I only saw a handful of episodes. I'll tell you, if there was ever a show that came and went and was never thought of again, Kate and Allie might be it. I don't know if it was syndicated. Boy, I don't know. I just don't remember it being ever. I mean, I swear to God, I've never heard anybody mention Kate and Allie since the damn show went off the air. So,
oh goodness. Well, the reason why it came up was because it was in recent memory. Before the holidays, or at the start of the holidays, we discussed the gem with Ed O'Neill, Dutch, and one of the daughters in Kate and Allie in later years played a lady of the night on Dutch. So see her at the beginning of her career on Kate and Allie. Before
you can see proto 90s hairstyles and clothing. It's very interesting. Anyways, that will be interesting. That's next time on Matinee Minutia, Katie and Allie. I'd like.
Sorry.
Thank you to Aunt Tudor and Sam and Billy, Star Sage and Maren Gertz and Artie Cruiser Tommy Hash Browns for making everything great and coming by and helping us out here by participating in the chat room. It makes it so much more fun for us folks having you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, so we're out here at the lobby and the doors are about to close because it's closing time. So, Toppy, in the ways of the old days of radio, could you say goodnight, Gracie?
Yeah. Good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia.
Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to univazpods.net, click the tower for streaming audio. Enter Discord for our chat room.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Find us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Find our group on Facebook.
Or visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Have an idea for a show? Or why not let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
This has been an Ollybug production.
Joe's Gone Wild with Matt and Tom.
Speak up.
The Smellcast by Tommy Smelly.
Be heard.
Tastes like burning with Tim and James.
Unique voices in podcasting.
The Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti.
univazpods.net.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the feed.